The year is 1720. On the turbulent sapphire waters of the Caribbean, the golden age of piracy is at its zenith. A British Royal Navy frigate, the HMS Greyhound, a beast of 90 guns and grim intention, bears down on a notorious pirate sloop. The black flag, a stark white skull against the void, whips in the wind. The captain of the Greyhound smiles. He has them. There is no escape. And then the impossible happens. It is not a trick of the light. It is not a sailor's drunken fantasy. For a fraction of a second, the pirate vessel shimmers, its edges blurring like a heat haze on a summer road. The air crackles. The ocean around its hull seems to fold. And then it is gone. The Greyhound's captain stares, his smile frozen on his face. A moment later, a lookout screams from the crow's nest. The pirate sloop has reappeared. 3 nautical miles off their port bow, sails suddenly full of a phantom wind, speeding towards a horizon the British ship could not hope to reach in an hour. History tells us this was an age of outlaws and empires, a simple war for gold and control of trade. This is a comfortable lie. The truth is infinitely more strange. The golden age of piracy was not a battle for treasure. It was a secret, desperate arms race for the control of physics itself. What if the pirates of the Caribbean had not merely mastered the sea, but had stumbled upon a fundamental flaw in the fabric of reality? They called them glitches, tears in the skin of the world, localized anomalies in space-time that haunted the high seas. To most mariners, they were inexplicable terrors. A sudden current that would throw a ship miles off course in minutes. A fog that would descend and lift to reveal the sun in the wrong part of the sky. A strange silence where the very passage of time felt sluggish, heavy, and slow. Men went mad trying to comprehend them. But the pirates learned to read them. They discovered these phenomena were not entirely random. They ebbed and flowed with lunar cycles. They followed unseen currents in the deep. They were governed by a logic that defied compass and sextant. A new breed of sailor was born from this discovery: the navigator. These were not men who read stars, but men who could feel the subtle pressures of a shifting reality. They could sense a glitch before it manifested, could steer a ship into the heart of a temporal distortion and emerge an hour later but 100 miles away. This was their secret weapon, their black magic. The greatest treasure they could ever hope to plunder was not a chest of Spanish gold, but a route through the impossible. They used these glitches to appear from nowhere, to strike with impunity, and to vanish into myth. Blackbeard's legendary reign of terror, the impossible speed of Bartholomew Roberts' fleet, the phantom-like appearances of Calico Jacket, was all powered by this secret, terrifying science. They were not just pirates, they were the world's first chrononauts, its first masters of a broken physics. But to understand how this forbidden knowledge allowed a scattered fleet of outlaws to bring the world's most powerful empires to their knees, we must first turn our gaze away from the sun-drenched Caribbean. We must travel to a dusty, candlelit observatory in Greenwich, England, in the year 1703. Here, the famed astronomer Edmund Halley, a man who mapped the heavens, was becoming obsessed with anomalies far closer to home. He saw them not in the stars but in the meticulous logs of ship captains. He noted reports that defied all reason. Ships arriving weeks early, their crews having experienced only days at sea. Others arrived months late, their food and water gone, their men aged beyond their years. He saw accounts of vessels sighting one another across impossible distances, only for one to disappear in the blink of an eye. The Admiralty dismissed them as errors, as madness, as lies. But Halley, a man who believed the universe was a grand, logical clockwork, saw a pattern. He saw a terrifying, undeniable truth. The clock was broken. The great empires of the age were not blind. They were bleeding. Their galleons, laden with the wealth of the New World, were being picked off by ghost ships. Their naval patrols, the pride of the seas, were outmaneuvered and humiliated. At first, they declared it the devil's work. Priests blessed the cannons, and special inquisitors were dispatched from Spain to root out the heresy. But prayers were no defense against a ship that could bend space-time to its will. A new, secret directive was issued from the highest echelons of power in London, Paris, and Madrid. The war on piracy was now a facade. The public was told of a crusade to restore order and trade, to hang buccaneers from the yardarm. The true mission was far more clandestine. Special naval units, the most elite and ruthless captains, were dispatched with a single, overriding objective: not to sink pirate ships, but to capture them, to seize their navigators, to steal their impossible charts, and to learn their secret at any cost. This secret war was led by men like Captain Charles Vane of the Royal Navy, a fictional counterpart to his piratical namesake, a man known for his cold, calculating cruelty. In the winter of 1721, his ship, the Indomitable, cornered a pirate brigantine near the Bahamas. Vaughan didn't order a broadside. He ordered his men to fire chainshot, to shred the sails, to cripple the vessel without sinking it. He needed its navigator alive. They took the man, a pirate named Finn, back to a secret naval installation in Port Royal, a place that didn't exist on any official map. Here, the Admiralty's newly formed Commission for Navigational Anomalies began its brutal work. They did not see physics or wonder. They saw a weapon. They tortured Finn for weeks, desperate to understand how to predict and control the glitches. His ravings, recorded by a trembling secretary, were of feeling the wrongness of the water, of listening to the song of the tides. It was useless. The gift was intuitive, not scientific. Realizing they could not learn the art, the Commission decided to force it through science. They began their own horrific experiments, equipping ships with arcane magnetic devices, esoteric lenses ground by Italian masters, and strange, resonating bells, all based on fragmented theories from Newton and Halley. They sailed these vessels directly into areas of high glitch activity. The results were catastrophic. One ship, the HMS Triton, sailed into a temporal pocket and aged 600 years in the space of 17 seconds. Rescuers found only a hull of petrified wood and the dust of its crew. Another vessel attempted to artificially trigger a spatial fold. The experiment went wrong, terribly wrong. The ship was torn in half. One half remained, a twisted wreck. The other half was found 3 weeks later, embedded in a cliff face in the Scottish Highlands, its crew flash fossilized inside. The pirates were not just winning the war. They were the only ones who knew how to survive it. Their intuitive mastery far outpaced the Empire's brutal, clumsy science. The Pirate Confederation, a loose network they called the Brethren of the Coast, was more organized than any empire could fathom. They knew their secret was their only advantage. Their legendary pirate havens, places like Nassau and Tortuga, were merely the public face of their operation. Their true strongholds existed in places no navy could ever reach. They had found stable glitches, permanent pockets of altered time, sanctuaries where time moved at a fraction of its normal pace. Inside these temporal havens, a week could pass, while 2 years went by in the outside world. Here, they could repair their ships, train new navigators, and plan their strategies with the luxury of time on their side. They could watch the empire's fleets grow old and rot in their harbors, while their own vessels remained eternally primed for battle. They had created nations outside of time, kingdoms built on the wreckage of physics. This secret network allowed them to dominate the seas for decades. But one man, a figure of historical renown, would come closer than any other to unraveling their entire world. Governor Woodes Rogers, the real-life pirate hunter of the Bahamas, was not like the others. He was intelligent, observant, and utterly ruthless. He noticed that the pirates didn't just use the glitches. They revered them. In 1722, after a bloody engagement, his men captured not just a navigator, but the man's personal logbook. The book was filled with more than just charts. It contained prayers, rituals, and strange mythologies. It spoke of the glitches not as a natural force, but as the breath of a sleeping giant, or the pulse of the ocean's heart. Rogers, a man of the Enlightenment, dismissed it as superstition, until his men found a hidden compartment in the navigator's sea chest. Inside was not gold or jewels, but a small, heavy object, carved from a material that resembled volcanic rock, yet hummed with a faint, internal energy. Rogers realized with a jolt of ice-cold dread that the pirates had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were masters of this new science, but they were merely children playing with a tool they didn't understand. The glitches weren't a natural phenomenon. They were a side effect, ripples from something ancient, powerful, and now perhaps stirring in the deep. He stared at the humming artifact, the impossible truth of the situation crashing down upon him. The race was no longer to control the glitches. It was a race to the source. That night, he penned a coded message to the Admiralty in London, a message that would change the course of human history forever. His quill scratched frantically on the parchment. The pirates are wrong. The ocean is not broken. It is aware. Rogers' message, carried by the fastest frigate in the fleet, reached London in a record 6 weeks. But what happened next is a secret buried deeper than any pirate treasure. The message never reached the Admiralty. It was intercepted, delivered to a private townhouse in Westminster, to a man whose name appeared on no official roster. For this was the true secret at the heart of the empire. The commission was a lie, a public-facing charade designed to absorb failure and attract attention. The real power lay with a clandestine order, a society that predated the Royal Navy itself. They had known for centuries. They had seen this awareness stir before, in the last days of the Roman Empire, and during the mysterious collapse of the Bronze Age. They weren't trying to weaponize the ocean. They were terrified of it. They were trying to put the genie back in the bottle. So who were these men? And what did they know that the rest of the world did not? While the pirates and the Navy fought a war for control of the seas, this third faction was fighting a war for the survival of reality itself. These men were the Order of the Constant, an ancient society of scholars, astronomers, and philosophers who viewed history not as a line, but as a delicate membrane, and the creature sleeping in the deep was pressing against it, threatening to tear it open. Their fight was not with pirates, but with paradox. Governor Rogers was not silenced. He was recruited. His practical, on-the-ground knowledge of the glitches was the final piece of the puzzle the Order desperately needed. While the empires built bigger ships, and the pirates sought more powerful navigators, the Order of the Constant prepared for the real war. They were building a weapon, but not one of steel or gunpowder. It was a weapon of metaphysics. The final act came in 1724, at what the history books would call the Battle of the Ocracoke Anomaly. The Pirate Confederation, led by the last of the great navigators, made a desperate final stand. They tried to tear open the largest glitch yet, a permanent gateway to their temporal sanctuaries. The combined navies of Britain and Spain saw it as their chance to crush the brethren once and for all. They were all fools, fighting over a splinter while the tree itself was about to fall. The pirates' grand ritual was not an escape. It was a final, desperate prayer to the ocean's heart. And the immense energy of the battle, the bloodshed, and the raw chaos was acting as an alarm clock. The sleeping giant was beginning to stir. From their hidden sanctum beneath London, the Order of the Constant made its move. They used the artifact Rogers had found, the Locus, not to control the glitches, but to sever the connection entirely. They aimed their metaphysical weapon not at the pirate fleet, but at the source of the power itself. Their goal was to sing reality a lullaby, to convince the abyssal mind to go back to sleep. On the seas, the effect was immediate and absolute. The sky did not explode. It simply stopped. The shimmering colors faded to a dull, ordinary gray. The impossible temporal currents vanished. The glitches snapped shut like a slammed door, severing the pirates from their power. The pirate havens, untethered from their temporal anchors, vanished into memory. Their ships, many held together by sheer paradoxical will, aged centuries and seconds, crumbling into rotten timber and sinking beneath the waves. The age of pirate magic was over. History, with a great and final shudder, snapped back into place. The survivors on both sides had no rational way to explain what they had witnessed. The stories were dismissed as sun-drunken ramblings, the tall tales of sailors. The pirates were defeated, Woodes Rogers became a hero, and the world forgot. The Order of the Constant had won. They had saved reality by erasing one of its most incredible chapters. They retreated back into the shadows, forever watching, forever waiting. The greatest truths are not found in history books. They are hidden in the margins, whispered in the static between moments, and buried in the depths where no one thinks to look. The past is never truly gone. It's just waiting for someone to shift their perspective. To see the stories that hide in plain sight, you have to be willing to look past the official record. If you're ready to explore the histories that have been forgotten and the truths that have been buried, subscribe to ChronoShift. The next chapter is waiting.